When we decided to start Copa, we thought a lot about why did we want to do this? What kind of place did we want to be? What was our reasoning? And while a lot of things are important to us, the quality of food, the quality of service, the guest experience, ultimately our big why, our big purpose is cultivating relationships from soil to table. And that's what we try to do every day.
The real prep work starts in the soil, and then you get nutritious food that you can put to the table to have a healthy community on the human side of the community, but also on the grander side of the community that involves all creation. Starts all the way down in the soil. So mise en place begins in the soil.
We feel that we are stewards of this piece of land, and we wanted to give it an appropriate name. And so we named it Terra Sacra, which is the Gallego term from Galicia, Spain, and it means sacred earth.
When I was able to put my hands into the soil and to grow some of the food that we were eating in South Durham, that became a revelation to me. I realized that I was going to put on the side all these dreams that I had from years ago, and I was going to go all on to growing food. We're going to add the compost that we have been curing for about 6 to 8 weeks, and it brings ingredients from leftovers from Copa, spent grain from full steam, and also leftover coffee grounds from some of the stores from Cocoa Cinnamon. So we're getting a lot of things going in there. And on the very back, and we also have some ingredients from El Camino, which is one of our providers. And on the very back, we have about 1 ton or 2 tons of produce that was rejected by El Camino because it did not come properly and in good shape, and it was kind of spoiled, and they donated it to us so that we can make compost for our gardens. This one is not perfect mulch or perfect compost, because I suspect that if we can look under the microscope for this one, we're going to find not only aerobic but also anaerobic microorganisms. And what we're going to do is instead of putting it on the garden bed, we're going to put it on the pathways with the hope that the beneficial microorganisms will go into the garden beds and the non-beneficial ones will die because of their exposure to the open air with plenty of oxygen. Mostly tomatoes, about 75 tomato plants, and we have also a few eggplants and summer squash. Eggplants in the center and summer squash at the ends. Spending time at the farm and spending time with plants and the soils and thinking about it, as a chef, it gives me a lot of ideas on how to move forward on the next steps. Okay, time for water.
So we have baby kale, and then we have some lettuce. And so these were just volunteers from last season, and he harvested them, and he'll probably eat them for lunch.
Basically, I'm making you guys a poor man's stew, but it should be pretty good. It's pork and potatoes and a little red wine, some tomato puree, garlic, herbs. I think it'll be good. We feel that what we have is very special, and we want to share it with other people.
All right, we're done here. Let's get this going and moving. This is half a bag And we can get from here several cuts of pork for the different menu dishes. Every Thursday, we get these delivered from Parker Family Farms. Is it tenderloin? Now here it comes. The first section of these lamb muscle is going to go to our pork chops, and then the rest will go to make either butifarras or croquetas. Now this distance here, from here to there, we'll have our chuletas. This is where learning a little bit of anatomy helps a lot. These are our ribs, and this is our masas, and this section can be used for other things because it has a lot of fat, so you need to remove that fat because it changes your recipes. This small section, we make cracklings from it, and it goes for crackling bread. And now we have the ribs. They cook very slowly for about 2 hours. And then Teresa is making a sauce for them. This sauce here that takes spices and herbs, and it is like a roux, but instead of using regular wheat flour, we're using cornstarch to make it thicker. And then we cook it a little longer with that, but not much, and serve it with that sauce. Those are the pork chops. The original recipe from the 1800s called for pepper, black pepper, but we're modifying it a little bit and using a small amount of cumin. This one is ready for tonight.
Since the sandwich shop, we started working with a young woman named Tiffany Parker and their farm called Parker Family Farms. And they raise excellent pigs on pasture. They're well cared for. Chefs often say that, happy animals make good meat.
Here's a pork belly. Now pork belly we leave it skin on. A little sugar, a little salt. And then it cures there until you deep fry it. By taking the inspiration of the old cookbook from Cuba and the context that we live nowadays in Durham, it's the two sources of inspiration for whatever goes into our menu. Probably 20 hours at this moment. Now we're going to make packages of about 2 pounds each that we're going to use all through service for our roasted pork dishes. I think that in addition of being cooked properly, low temperature, long time, it also needs to be chopped properly. And chopping properly is that you need to identify your muscle fibers and chop against 90-degree angle. Otherwise, when you bite onto it, you need to be doing extra work of biting those fibers. Slow roasted pork is the main ingredient, and then it takes ham, cheese, Cuban style bread, pickles, and mustard, and then pork on the side. You can see the red of the ham, the mustard and the cheese at the bottom, the pickle in the center, and then pork. That's a grouper. They are for pescado a la habanera. It's a grouper Havana style. This is a recipe from 1800s Cuba. And one of the reasons I like about it is that it doesn't use limes, which is very often used for fish, but instead it uses the combination of capers and sweet oranges to give that idea of a citrusy flavor. All these ingredients are very much diminished if they do not come from a healthy environment, either the soil or the ocean. Our new strategy with the menu of moving on to not only do pork inspired by Cuban dishes, but also fish inspired by Cuban tradition of cooking seafood, which makes a lot of sense because Cuba is an island. It is a whole snapper, red snapper. We're going to debone the 3 snappers, then we're going to season them, and then we're going to put them on the skewer so that they can be cooked as a whole, and prep them so that they're ready just to stick it to the oven and cook it when we get an order.
Where did you learn how to debone fish?
YouTube. And the anatomy class. It helps a lot. It's a beautiful technique because at the end you have a wave of the shape of the animal of the fish, and that wave kind of resembles the origin of the fish. It is served with Mexican style nixtamal tortillas that are grown locally, that are soaked and cooked with lime in our restaurants. We're grinding them ourselves and shaping them ourselves. And at the end it comes this beautiful dish that it is so full of flavors that are local, but also using techniques and traditions from places in the world that are quite far apart.
We're prepping the cocktail La Diosa Negra, and the garnish is organic bright leaf tobacco from North Carolina. It's a smoked cocktail, so the smoke is going to come from a Cuban cigar that was hand rolled in rural Cuba. And then the spirits that go in the cocktail are North Carolina spirits. So we have the Damn Fine Coffee Liqueur from Durham Distillery, and then we have the Muddy River Spiced Carolina Rum. So the first step is we're going to prep the cigar. When that's ready, next we're going to go ahead and pour the ingredients. Takes just a little bit of orange bitters to brighten it up. And then 1 drop of Haitian vanilla. We do just a little tiny bit of organic cane sugar. And then we're going to stir this drink up. And while we do that, we're going to go ahead and let the smoke fill the jar. So we're going to use a cigar torch. And now the smoke from that cigar is going to infuse the drink. So I was looking for a drink that I could name after a woman. I realized that this was a woman-run bar and all of my drinks were named after men, and I didn't like that very much. So I thought about that. I also had been thinking about working on a drink that really touched on the elements of just a perfect Cuban afternoon, right? You know, cigar, coffee, rum. How could I work all of that together? I thought about the tobacco. I love the idea that we have tobacco in North Carolina and tobacco in Cuba. We have excellent spirits made in North Carolina, including rum. And as a farm-to-table place, we're always looking at what local bounty can we use to help tell an international story. Throughout the space now are all of these beautiful personal details. The stained glass windows are made by a family friend, handmade by him. The photographs on the wall are from my father and a trip that they took with us to Cuba. The paintings on the wall behind us were commissioned from a dear friend and very talented artist in Cuba. And everywhere we look are just the little touches of people who believed in us when nobody else would.
As you can see, there is a lot of work that needs to be done all the way from the soil to here. And this is not possible unless you have a good team of well-committed team members. And where we can trust each other and we can learn from each other and we can support each other, not only through work, but through life and many other things.
One of the things I want to share through the BARD program and that Roberto shares through the kitchen is that we really, and at the heart of it is that we are connected as people.
It is my hope that by doing all that we're doing in the best way we know how to do it, that people will come together, that people will share, that people will get to know each other, that people will get to love each other, that people will get to understand each other and realize how similar we are. And that can be done so easily and so simply just by sitting down and sharing a cup of coffee or a plate of food or a drink.